Hey CLT family, after a much needed rest, break, hiatus, whatever you want to call it, we are back just in time for the holidays. But before we start, I just want to let you guys know that you are simply amazing, and I truly appreciate you sticking with me through this process, through this journey. Things are changing, things will continue to change. And I gave you guys a whole month of a break without me. So I hope you were able to go back and listen to some of the podcast episodes from the previous season. And maybe they still resonate with you. Maybe you realize that you've actually grown from listening to some of them. But let's get into the show. So for those of you who are just now joining us, I'm Jaquila. I'm the host of Conversations of Truth podcast, and you have entered a judgment-free zone. Now, on today's episode, we are going to discuss stepping out of their shadows. This is something that has been near and dear to me for probably about a year now, as I've been doing this whole rediscovery and getting to know myself and walking in my purpose, self-care, things of that nature. I think it's very important that we take notice to some of the things that I'm going to discuss today. As a preface, I am not a therapist. However, I can reassure you that life has hit me and each person who joins us hard. Some harder than others, but that doesn't stop us from pushing forward. All right, now let's get into the show. We're starting off with our icebreaker, which is our normal question that I would ask in the beginning of the show and answer. And then we'll get into our heart to heart, which is our conversation. So the icebreaker for today is, what motivates you the most? Something that motivates me the most is to know that I'm walking in my purpose, to know that I'm serving God, to know that I could possibly be helping someone else. And if we're speaking of a particular task, the end goal is always my motivation. I knew that when I started my master's program, hey, I want to be done with this degree before I transfer to my next command. I transferred to my next command December 16th. I will complete my master's degree December 8th. That was my motivation, and here soon I'll be at my end goal. So what motivates you the most when it comes to completing a task, an assignment, or reaching a goal? Let me know in the comments here on YouTube, because we are on YouTube now, or on Facebook and Instagram. You can even email us if you want to, and I'll give you that information at the end of this show. Now into our heart to heart. So the topic is stepping out of their shadows. And the reason why I titled it that is because for so long I realized that I was doing things that other people wanted me to do, not necessarily something that my heart desired. And because I was doing things that I thought because I don't know for certain that this is what other people wanted me to do, but because I was doing things that I thought other people wanted me to do, I set up a timeline for my life. Why? Why did I set timelines for myself? I set those timelines for myself, and I like to say that with some of those timelines, I ended up hurting myself. I ended up settling for things, but thank God that I was able to start this journey that I'm on now and realize that the timelines aren't necessary. Everything is going to happen in its appropriate and designated time. Again, I was doing things for other people, things that my heart didn't necessarily desire. And when I realized it, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm stopping now. Although the guidance and the discipline that I received growing up has honed me into this go-getter of a person, of a woman, I still question why to some things. Like I said, I only do it because it's what I thought people expected of me. So, for instance, let's use school for an example, because this is something that I was like, I'm done. So, growing up, we had to bring home nothing less than a B. I appreciate it because it taught me to set my standards high, right? The goal was college. Hey, you got to go to college. That's all you heard growing up. We didn't really hear about entrepreneurship and trade schools. Those weren't the things that you were you were pushed and encouraged to be. You were encouraged to be doctors. You were encouraged to be nurses and work in the healthcare field. You were encouraged to be firefighters and police officers. So I'm like, all right, at a young age, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I started going through high school and I'm like, yeah, I still want to be in the medical field or whatever. And when I realized how long I had to go to school to be a doctor, I was like, all right, pump my brakes. I'll be a RN, a nurse. And that's something that I truly wanted to do. Now I'm going through school and unfortunately I did not become a nurse. However, I'm still able to practice in the healthcare field as a healthcare administrator or a healthcare manager. And then I was like, okay, to match my bachelor's degree, I'm going to get my master's degree. Now, I have some cousins who are doctors and everybody's like, girl, don't that sound good? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. But now I'm like, no, it sounds good, but it's not something that I want to do. So I'm not going to do it. I can't do it because other people expect me to do it. Another thing that I would do is set things in place so that I could be a better example for my siblings and people following behind me, someone for them to look up to. But if I had used school as the thing they should deem as an example, I would only be, I feel, hindering them, because now they don't see that you can also be an entrepreneur, or now they don't see that, hey, you don't have to go to college to build a successful life for yourself. Not only that, but who's to say what success is to someone else? Success to me might be 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with 2 luxury cars, but success to another person could be a 3-bedroom house, 1.5 bath, and a car to get them from A to B with money in the bank. Like, success looks different for everybody. And now that I'm walking in this path, on this journey, I feel like my siblings and those who look up to me will see that, hey, I don't have to be a doctor to be successful, or I don't have to be married and have kids by this age to be successful. That doesn't determine my success. How you feel on the inside determines your success. Your true happiness should determine how successful you are. Again, I was held to a certain standard growing up, and I felt like I couldn't fall below it. Another example of this would be back to school. When I got my bachelor's degree, I graduated cum laude. Proud, super proud, whoop whoop. But then when I got to my master's degree, I had this mindset that, hey, I'm gonna get nothing but all A's, until that first B came along, and I was like, dang, I got a B. And I had to sit and I'm like, girl, as long as you pass these classes with a B, you're going to graduate with your degree and you'll be just fine. I had to stop putting the extra and unnecessary pressures on myself. Not saying that it was okay to be a slacker. I still gave my best in what I was doing, but I wasn't going to allow it to stress me out. I use school as an example, but we can also think about my divorce. So I was married, and I could have sat and I could have dealt with the things that I was dealing with to appease other people, to do what it was they felt I needed to do. All day long you'll hear people, oh, well, I gotta fight for my marriage, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Not disagreeing. However, you have to be able to realize what battles are worth fighting. When your mental health and your safety is of a concern, sometimes you gotta leverage it. And I rather, okay, back to being an example for my siblings, I wanted to be an example for them. They see me get married, they're, oh, you're a pretty bride, oh, you look so happy. But had I stayed in that situation unhappy, because I do have very close relationships with my sisters, they would have seen like, dang, she's sitting through this. Where now I can kind of change the course, and I'm in control of my narrative by saying, hey, yes, I got married, but there were things that I wasn't willing to settle and deal with. So I didn't, and I decided to leave. So now, instead of them having torn torn relationship to look at and feel like that's the way to be. They now can see that, hey, if it's not serving me, if it's not healthy and conducive to the person that I want to become, not only in marriage, but with any relationship, friendship, it's okay to leave. Yeah, you might have to deal with the talks of other people, but it does not determine who you are as a person. I now am living in my purpose. Like I said, I could have cared about what people thought to the end, and I could have stuck through it and struggled the whole time. But we know that I'm not one who promotes struggle love. I'm just not doing it. I'd rather someone be by themselves and happy than to feel like they have to be in a relationship miserable. Next segment of our podcast, the wrap it up. Now, in order to step out of their shadows and into my purpose, I had to be brave. I had to be confident. I had to have faith and trust in God because I couldn't do it alone. Regardless of what was happening, He was always directing my path. I had to understand more of how God operates and less of how I saw things and how I wanted to operate. I couldn't dwell on things for too long, especially when I already knew the answers. Many people would consider the things that I just said as creating your own lane. If you can create your own lane, you can step out of their shadows, because there's not a written book for this. And sometimes you really have to be more in tune with yourself and less worried about what other people think. You have to know and realize how you feel in certain situations. I'll talk about this all the time. It really starts with you. Everything starts with you and your inner person, your inner being, what you feel, what you think, what you see, what you hear, what you allow yourself to see, think, and hear. Do what makes your heart smile. Do what helps you sleep at night, not what other people would like for you to do. Once I learned this, and I'm still learning it, and I'm still practicing it, and I'm still having to coach myself through it, but my life, when I say my life, becomes so much easier by taking these steps and realizing these things. And I just hope that it helps your life become easier as you listen to it and you process the things that I say. Some of it may be relatable, some of it may not. Take what you need and throw the rest away. That's fine by me. Now, for next week's icebreaker, do you think crying is a sign of weakness or strength? For those of you who know me, you know my answer. And I'll share it with the rest of you guys next week. Now, don't forget to tune in to Conversations of Truth next week, same time, same place. Y'all know you can join the conversation on multiple platforms, from Apple Podcasts to now YouTube. So hit the follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platforms. Make sure you click that bell to be notified and subscribe on YouTube. For an extension of conversation, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Conversations of Truth. Of course, if you have any questions or you need advice, you can reach us on our email at conversationsоftruth@gmail.com, which is always open. You will not be judged, and I will always answer and advise you the best that I can. Until next time, I love y'all, and remember, in order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. I'll see y'all next Wednesday. Bye.